This video premiered 1 week early on Patreon. If you want to see any of these videos before they're uploaded to YouTube, please consider joining the Patreon. You'll also have access to all of the raw files and samples that I use in my mixes. You'll be supporting the cost of keeping everything up on Spotify, and more than anything, you'll be supporting me doing something that I love. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please consider heading over to patreon.com/eggbeats and joining for $1 a month. All right, see ya. So to celebrate reaching 2,500 subscribers, thank you for that, by the way, I wanted to do something kind of special on this channel, and something I've been meaning to do for a while now is make a video where I sort of open up a project file and kind of get into the nitty-gritty, explaining how I make one of these Gorillaz What If videos. So recently I posted to the YouTube community page and I asked you guys, hey, if I was going to make one of these videos where I explain how I made something and, get into it track by track, which would you most like to see? And overwhelmingly, the answer, unsurprisingly, was anything from Phase 1. So to recap, that's Every Planet We Reach Is Dead, unself-titled, and Rhinestone Eyes, unself-titled. So I thought, hey, what better way to start than by choosing the most popular of those two, which is What If Rhinestone Eyes was on self-titled. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up the project file and show you everything and kind of go into, what inspired it, how I kind of approached it, how I recorded things, all that good stuff. I did take some notes because I will just kind of talk forever and go on tangents otherwise, and this will help keep me grounded. And I'm going to do my best to kind of break this into chapters too, so kind of the inspiration, the approach, and then the individual tracks, so you can just kind of jump around to whatever is most interesting to you. Hopefully, as a Gorillaz fan, you might appreciate sort of like what went into this. If you're just a fan of what I'm doing, maybe you'll get something out of it. And also, if you're just into, audio production or music making or anything like that, maybe you'll learn something from this, or just find it interesting. With that said, let's go ahead and open up the project file and get into it. Okay, so here's my project file for What If Rhinestone Eyes was on Gorillaz self-titled. First of all, I'm using Reaper. I really recommend Reaper as a DAW. It's so much cheaper than many other similar programs out there. If, Pro Tools interests you, but you can't afford Pro Tools because it's way overpriced, Reaper is the program for you. It's like $60 and you'll have it for like 2 full versions. I think in the last 12 years, I've paid $120 total for this program. So highly recommend that if you're looking to level up from, Audacity or one of those kind of free programs. Reaper is the way to go. You can see I've got 20-something tracks here, all kinds of instruments and vocals. Before I get into those, I want to just talk a little bit about the inspiration of this particular idea, because this was the first one. This was the first of these that I tried. And really where it came from, if you know the history of the recording of Plastic Beach and some of the tracks around that, then this will be probably familiar to you. If not, consider this your lesson. Leading up to Plastic Beach, there was all this material that was recorded and never used. One of those songs was something called Electric Shock, which Damon Albarn had kind of bouncing around in different formats for years. There's multiple different versions of it. There's a live version. There's a couple of like unfinished demos. One of those demos, I remember when it premiered in like 2009 or something like that, I was so excited for it. I'm like, this is awesome. This is everything that I love about self-titled Gorillaz and Demon Days, both phases musically kind of mixed in with like something new in there too. There's this orchestral thing and, it's got this great hook, that's Electric Shock, that whole thing. So you can maybe imagine my disappointment when Plastic Beach finally came out and Electric Shock was nowhere to be found. Except for in one place, and that's Rhinestone Eyes. Rhinestone Eyes has one little voice clip in the chorus, that's electric. While I do love Rhinestone Eyes, I think it's a great song, I was very disappointed when that was the only representation of Electric Shock, aside from the orchestral part of it being released as like a different track. Because of that, there was always a part of me that wondered, well, what if Electric Shock had been finished? What if Rhinestone Eyes had been done more like in the style of the original Electric Shock? And so it was kind of a mixture of those different thoughts. And then finally I was like, I bet Rhinestone Eyes would sound really good if it was, kind of in the style of the first Gorillaz album, and if it had the full Electric Shock voice sample in there to kind of bring it all together. I also just love the sound of those first couple of records. Personally, I'm a fan of everything Gorillaz have done. I'm always here for whatever album they put out next. I loved Cracker Island. I love the Now Now. The Humans and Demon Days probably tied for like my favorite album. I think they're great. I still like long for certain sounds sometimes, as certain sounds just tend to kind of speak to me more than others. And I think the first couple of albums will always have a different kind of place in my heart. They just kind of exist in a different space. And I thought it'd be great to hear, what if one of the newer songs was on one of those records? And so that's where this whole idea sort of originally stemmed from. So once I had the idea in my head of, kind of starting to picture what this could sound like, I had to kind of answer some questions. And those questions were things like, what would the drums sound like? What would the guitars sound like? Or would there be guitars? There aren't really many acoustic instruments on Rhinestone Eyes. What about the vocals? That was a big one. So on Rhinestone Eyes, Damon Albarn does what's known as like sprechgesang, which is like talk singing, basically. Most prevalent on Feel Good Inc., Rhinestone Eyes, Do Your Thing, Sleeping Powder. He's done this on a lot of songs, but he didn't do that during Phase 1. Not once that I've ever heard anyway. If it was going to be on their first album, I'd have to kill that entirely. So I would have to come up with a melody for it. And that kind of tied into another approach I had, which was, I do think that the chorus of Rhinestone Eyes would benefit from a melody, not just repeating parts of the verse at that kind of monotone way. And then the last thing really that was jumping out to me was, what do I do with like the main melody of the chorus? Like, how do I translate that from like that synth line? So the answer to a lot of these things, for drums, okay, well, it's got to be sampled drums, because every drum track, or almost every drum track on the first album is some kind of old school hip hop sample, because it's, Kid Koala and Dan the Automator producing that record, and they're like the trip hop masters, right? And that's all they do is they sample old records they find, and they get some really cool, groovy, kind of trippy beats out of that. So I knew I'd have to approach it that way. I knew I need to use, beyond that, as many real instruments as I possibly could, get a melody on the vocal line, and lastly, I thought, well, what better instrument to convert the main chorus synth line to than the melodica? That's like synonymous with the first Gorillaz record, right? So once I had kind of all that in mind, it was sort of just going track by track and just kind of feeling things out, and just seeing what made the most sense while still capturing the feel of the original song just in this new way. So with all that in mind, let's take a look at the individual tracks here, starting with, best place to start, the drums. So I'm going to go ahead and solo everything that's kind of drum or percussion related. You can see I've got it grouped in this like blue color here. So let's solo those out. You can also see I've got my song broken down into sections: intro, verse, chorus, verse, etc. This is everything percussion-wise. We've got 2 drum tracks. There's a little break in the drums right here where the drum beat kind of shifts and sounds a little bit different. We've got reverb on the snare drum right here. That's this track here. And we've got a sampled drum fill. And lastly, we've got some DJ scratching, which I'm just kind of counting as part of the percussion here. So let's listen to the drums by themselves. No effects, nothing. Just the 2 drum tracks. There's one in the left channel, one in the right channel. Here's the left channel. And the right channel. Let's just loop one of these. So yeah, this is definitely like an old school beat sampling. I didn't take it from any licensed music. This is taken from, free samples that were uploaded on a free sound website. So this is all free to use. There's no, copyright issues here. But this I thought was really cool. They're both kind of feeling a similar groove, but you've got this one on the left kind of giving the straight groove underneath, and then this one on the right is kind of accenting. So put those together, you get a real nice, full, pretty funky beat there. It's pretty good. So then what I did was I took the snare and I just cut this out, like if I zoom in here, that's the snare right there, right? Because the other thing that I wanted to make sure I did was get some really good reverb going on the snare. If you listen to some of those tracks, like let's say New Genius, there's a really big reverb happening, kind of a nice big echo happening on the snare drums. And I thought that would be a nice effect to have for something like this. So I took that snare track and I ran it through some reverb. So this is the plugin I'm using. It's called Epic Verb. This is free. And it just has like a few basic ideas. I don't really use this one too much anymore, but at the time it felt like it did the trick. So if I bring all that together, here's the beat without the snare sample, without the reverb on it. And now, It just adds like so much to it, you know? And now you're really getting that trip hop feel. Now let's skip ahead. We've got some drum fills here. Don't remember where I got this drum fill from, but I'm pretty sure it was just another sample. Yeah, old school drum fill. You can see the name of it here. That's just classic Gorillaz right there. And I've got a delay on it too. If I take off the delay, add it on there, just adds a little something. And then lastly, we've got the scratch, which is, I don't have a way to like record an actual record scratch. If I did, first of all, I wouldn't even know what the hell I'm doing. But let's just say I could, you know, elevate these tracks to be even more authentic with Gorillaz self-titled. But for now, I've just got to settle for a sample like this. So put that over the drum fill and you get. So let's just listen to a little bit of the drums all together, all this stuff coming together. Perfect. Oh, there's one more part just where there's a drum break. And all this is, I put it on a separate track because it was easier. I just took that right drum track, put it in the center, and then EQ'd it. This is what my EQ was looking like at the time. I don't use this particular EQ plugin anymore, but this was getting the job done at the time for sure. So you can see I'm cutting off all the high end, all the low end. Think of kind of like the break in 2000. After one of the first choruses, right? Once you get back from here to here, you've got a huge EQ shift and it just makes it all pop. Yeah, like that. And those were the drums. Let's move on to the bass. Okay, so for the bass guitar, I kind of have two tracks going here. So let's listen to a few bars of that. I've got two tracks happening. One is filling out the low end. Like that. Little fills in there. Kind of just that dub feel. You know, a lot of the dub feel of like that trip hop dub kind of genre has usually a bass track that's kind of lower and just kind of filling out that low end a little bit. And then there's usually more melodic stuff happening on top of that. But at the very least, you've got that low kind of foundation, right? I decided to make that little kind of beeping sonar sound in the original Rhinestone Eyes. I decided, what if I put that onto the bass guitar? That might be kind of cool. Make it a little bit more subtle, you know? Yeah, I couldn't really think of a way to put it in there that sounded like the original song, but with self-titled. I could have tried it with a melodica or something like that, but I just thought it'd be cool to kind of take inspiration from double bass and put the melody of that right into the bass. So we've got this track like this. Yeah. And then I just add a delay in time with the song. And you can see I've got my bass guitar over here. This is not the one I would have used. I had a Washburn bass that my friend is borrowing. This is a new one I've acquired. But yeah, definitely just plugged straight in. I'm running it through an amplifier plugin called Emissary, which is like kind of a clean guitar plugin, and it sounds great on bass as well. And then you just send it to the cabinet right after that, which is the Nadir. These are both free. Ignite Emissary and Ignite Nadir. I use these for all of my amp simulation. You can get all kinds of great sounds out of them. If nothing else for bass, it's a great way to get that amplified bass sound if you don't have a way to record an amplifier at home, or if you don't own one. You can just plug right into your interface, use these, and again, these are free and they sound great. So that's what I'm doing here on both the original track, like the low bass track, and the echoed track. But yeah, again, just listening to the low track and the echo track again, you get just this really nice, yeah, they're kind of playing off each other. Really like that. And then we skip ahead to the chorus, and I didn't really change much from the original bass line of Rhinestone Eyes. I think it's a great bass line. I just kind of switched up the groove of it to match the drums. Just like that. And so when we mix that in with the drums, you get like a pretty groovy kind of foundation here. That's the other thing too, is just, you know, adjusting. Once you've got that drum beat that you like and you can kind of feel that like, oh yeah, this is going to be the foundation, you've got to kind of adjust the bass guitar to sort of match that. And the thing is, if you chose the right beat and you've got the right feel from the chord, the rest of it's going to start to kind of naturally fall into place from there. As long as you just, you really listen to the drums and play along to the drums in a way that feels natural and like locks in with it, the rest kind of just starts to come together like that, Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the bass. I don't think I really did much else. It's just those kind of two different parts. Occasionally I take out the delay just to kind of break things down a bit, but I think outside of those two parts in the chorus, that's it for bass. Pretty simple, but feels good and groovy, locks right in with the drums. Got ourselves a good foundation for this song. So now we move on to guitar, and this was my favorite thing to record for sure. Now, there is an acoustic guitar in the original Rhinestone Eyes. It's kind of a very soft, almost a nylon string guitar. It's kind of hard to tell for sure, but very softly played. I kind of changed the approach. I mostly played it the same way as on the original song, but I've got one trick, and this is a great guitar trick. If you want to make your song sound more like the first Gorillaz album, I'm going to show you this trick right now. Let me grab my guitar. Okay, so here's my trick. Let's say you have a chord. Let's say you have a C chord, okay? C power chord. 3, 5, 5. All you gotta do, just get rid of that root note. Don't play that root note. Mute it, whatever. All you're gonna play is that 5, 5. So now, instead of going, you're going like this. Do you hear it? It's subtle, but do you hear that? Play that a little bit bluesy, like. I mean, that's just, think about like New Genius, right? Like, it's a G going up to A sharp. But all I'm going to do is take away that root note. Now you got, that's it. Just adds this really bluesy kind of feel to it. That's the trick. And that is what I did for the guitar on Rhinestone Eyes on Self-Titled. It's something like a, I don't remember the exact thing I'm playing, but it's basically that. But I mean, it works for like anything. Like here's Kids with Guns, right? So instead of, now just take away that root note and you've got Self-Titled. Helps if you can do it on an acoustic guitar as well. Just adds that kind of like natural bluesy sound to it that you get a lot on that first record. Pretty simple, honestly. Just play less. Other than that, there's only one other guitar track here. Now, if you listen to the original song, there's kind of this descending sound in the background. It's like a synthesizer kind of going from high to low. So I decided it would just be kind of cool to take a guitar. That's like pretty funny when you play it that way, but just walking down the neck, just note by note, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, whatever. I forgot what exactly notes I'm playing, but it's just one fret at a time. And much like the other tracks I was talking about with the Ignite amplifiers, that's all I'm doing here too. I'm using the distorted channel on here. And then to kind of add it, give it add sort of an interesting character to it, I did the EQ plugin where I killed the low end on this big time, like right there. So here it is without that EQ really quick for reference. Plug in back on. And the point of that is there's already so much stuff happening on the low end of this song. It's a very bass and drums heavy song. And a lot of that stuff is happening down here. Your kick drum, your snare drum, the bass guitar. It's all happening down here. This is the low end on the left. And there's no reason to have all that information on the guitar, this like one random guitar track as well. It's just going to clash with all that. It's not going to sound great. So you roll off all that, so all you're getting is the high end, and it kind of exists in its own space. And lastly, I just added a little bit of delay on that. Reaper comes with this free delay, by the way, called Redelay. And I really like it. It's pretty straightforward. It's nothing special, but you've got some basic parameters here, and I've just got it like a little bit of kind of like to get a room sound, almost like a slapback sound. So here it is with, and I'll take it off now. And it sounds pretty weak, right? Doesn't sound that great. But if I turn it back on, real simple delay effect, just kind of adds a nice space to it. So I think that's it for guitars. One acoustic guitar track, one electric guitar track. That electric is just towards the end. The acoustic is just a couple of times in there. Pretty simple stuff, but adds some nice character to it in like kind of the mid-range, you know? All right, my fellow Gorillaz fans, this is the big one. This is the instrument of all instruments, aside from maybe the Omnichord, which I don't own, to bring the whole Phase 1 thing to life, and that is the Melodica. You can see I've got a couple of Melodica tracks here. There's a left one and a right one. I showed it earlier, but here it is again. This is just a Hohner 32-note. Melodica is like $30 at Guitar Center or probably Amazon. Quick note about this, tangent about this, is that I almost got this signed by Damon Albarn. I was lucky enough to meet Damon back in 2022. Me and a group of friends kind of hung out outside the tour bus, and he was kind enough to come out and say hi to us. He took a photo with us, putting that on the screen now. And what I had done is I brought my Melodica with, and my intention was to see if I could get him to sign a key. So I actually took this whole thing apart, and I took one of these keys. I think it was like the C. Took it out, and I had a permanent marker and everything, and I'm like, I'm going to see if I can get him to sign it. And he was not signing anything at all. That was what he said. He's like, I'm not going to sign anything, but I'll take photos. He was really quick about it, and it was an awesome moment as a Gorillaz fan to finally get to, you know, briefly meet and pose for a picture with, like, my favorite, you know, musician, or one of my favorite living musicians right now, you know? But I didn't get the Melodica signed, unfortunately. That said, I did use it to improve his song. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Real quick, here's a bonus clip from that night of Damon singing while looking into my phone during Kids with Guns. It was a fun night. Melodica, this was pretty straightforward. It was just recording with this microphone right here. This is my AKG C214, and this is a great standby for vocals, acoustic guitar, and random instruments like this sometimes. Because I wanted to get a stereo effect going, right? Really make the Melodica sound not as cheap, make it sound really big and kind of take up a lot of space. So here's one track on the left. So first, let's hear it all together. Love it. I could make sounds like that, listen to that all day. I love that so much. I'm going to mute the reverb, and let's just listen to each of these Melodica tracks by themselves. You can see I recorded one on the left channel and one in the right channel. So, muting the reverb. Let's go to the left channel. And the right channel. So I wanted the stereo effect, and this is a great recording tip for any instrument, really. Anytime you are recording the same instrument and you're going to put one on the left and one on the right to kind of make it sound bigger, wider, more interesting. The biggest tip I have for you, you have to find a way to record it in a different way. If you're recording guitars, use a different guitar. If you don't have a different guitar, switch your pickup, use a different setting on the amplifier. Both of those things, anything you can do to make them sound different. Because if you don't do that, things just get muddy and the stereo field doesn't sound as good. Plus, you'll get this cancellation thing that happens, where once you go to listen to it on a non-stereo device like your phone or something, it's not going to sound as good. This is what I did. Now, I don't remember which was which, but I know this much. What I did for one track was I had the microphone kind of on this vent back here where the sound is coming out. So I'm kind of picking it up from the back here. And for the other one, kind of came over here, got a little bit further away, and now the sound is coming from this side of the Melodica. So what you end up with is kind of two different tones of the same instrument. And so when you decide to put one left, one right, you're not just getting like kind of a muddy, sort of almost chorus effect. You're getting a proper stereo image. So that is my big tip. One of the biggest recording tips I have for you. When you double stuff, do something different. Don't just go one for one, the exact same thing again. You're not going to get the result you're looking for. It might still sound good, but it could sound better. That is my tip for you. So beyond that, of course, I had to recreate the sound of the melodica from the first record. And to do that, I've got a lot of delay and a lot of reverb. So here it is with just the delay. So you see I've just got like a little bit of something. It's an eighth note delay. It's feedbacking quite a bit. Like that. And then I've got the reverb. Here's the reverb by itself. Yeah. And then we put those two together. I want you to think about Clint Eastwood at the very end of the song when he's just kind of rocking out, you know, and just sort of improvising on the melodica. It's echoing, it's ping-ponging all over the place. It's really, it just sounds, I guess for lack of a better word, it sounds trippy. It sounds kind of trippy, it sounds really big, and that's what I wanted to do with this. So I think this was a key sound for making the melodica sound good. I needed to double it with that interesting stereo mix, and I needed to get a lot of reverb and delay on there. My other tip for you, and this is going to apply to any instrument. Almost any time I add reverb onto something, I put the reverb on another channel. You can see I've got my melodica track to the left, melodica track to the right, not 100%, just kind of 60%, and both of those are being sent to the reverb track. So that all I have to do, if I want to bring up that reverb, bring down that reverb, I'm not going in and fiddling with the settings and trying to turn the knobs. It's just one fader. It's one fader, and if I want the melodica reverb to go up, want it to go down, find that blend, it's so much easier this way. You just have so much more control over it. Another huge recording tip I have for you. So with that stereo effect and the reverb, that's essentially all the instrumentals. The only other thing is, and I have it kind of categorized in the same thing here, is the piano. The piano, very cheap sounding. This is just an upright piano plugin, Vercillion upright piano. It's kind of like a, not so much like a Rhodes, but yeah, just like an upright piano, like the kind you might see at a bar or something where it's just like the kind of square thing. It's not like a giant grand piano. You can mess with the attack, sustain, release, all that kind of stuff. There's some nice settings, but I just wanted something that sounded kind of plinky, kind of honky-tonk, you know? You know, if you think of like left-hand Suzuki method, there's kind of a section that has sort of that feel to it. Played root notes and you know, power chords. Real simple there, but just kind of adds something nice at the end here. Before we get too much further, no song from the first album, or at least not the way I was approaching it, would be complete without a long melodica outro. Some kind of cool fade-out outro that's just improvising and jamming. It is something that I feel is kind of missing on the first Rhinestone Eyes. I would have liked to hear the song kind of keep jamming a little bit, right? If you look at the master track, I've got it fading out, but we can actually, why don't we take away the fade out real quick? Here's my master track up top. You can see how I've got it fading out. So we'll just kill that fade out. And let's listen to it without the fade out. Harmonizing. Harmonizing with each other. Up an octave. Just kind of ends there. And so that's the instrumental so far. So that only leaves one thing, and it's a big one. That's vocals. So as you can imagine, the vocals for this kind of project are sort of the make or break aspect of the whole thing, really. It's not enough just to get the vibe. The vocals themselves have to kind of sell the fact that this is an approach at some kind of Gorillaz track. And I'm very lucky and fortunate, according to many of you anyway, that I'm able to tap into the Damon or 2D vocals pretty well. There are definitely all kinds of things he can do vocally that I can't do. He's a great, vocalist. He's a great performer. Hell, he's a great songwriter. He's kind of got me beat on all those things, right? But I can tap into, thankfully, certain aspects of his singing style pretty naturally for my own voice. So, the lower vocals, the higher vocals, the falsetto, the raspiness, I can kind of do all sorts of mixing and matching with that to more or less, you know, capture the sound of his voice on those first couple of records. So let's listen to just my vocals. As awkward as that may be for me, here's, for example, the second verse. Feeling now my heart is frozen, all the verses and the corrosion, having after native in my soul. More than anything, the performance is key here, right? So the kind of approach to it, singing it a certain way, writing the right kind of melody for it. My goal here, when I was turning, as I said earlier, the kind of sprechzang, the da 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 da, right, into vocal, or into a melody rather, the goal here was to sort of match the energy. So if he's going da 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 da, I'm going da 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 da, right? Like I'm transferring it over to like a melody, and in this case, I'm going up an octave. But wherever he kind of went, if he was going down, then up, and then back in the middle, that's where I would take the notes. The idea being to capture the original emotional energy of what's happening, but giving it a melody that is more in line with what you might hear on that first record. Gary Gaga on a tower, that shit made with plastic power. Your Rhinestone eyes are like factories far away. I got a lot going on here, so I'm just going to open up all these effects. There is so much happening here. Vocals can be very tricky to mix, but this is what I got going. So first I've got a de-esser, just to help get rid of some of the brittleness and the sharpness on the voice. I've also got a little bit of a pitch shift happening. I'm shifting my voice down like a quarter of a tone, basically. I think if I recall, the track I originally recorded them over was like, I had a different bass guitar track, and I think that was a little bit out of tune, and I sang over that. So to just kind of make it in tune, I brought the whole thing down ever so slightly. I've got EQ happening. I've got a compressor, more EQ to help get rid of some low end. I've got some tune correction happening here. Yeah, I do use autotune sometimes. Guess what? So does Damon. Just a couple little notes here. One there. One there. It's okay to use. It's okay to use autotune once in a while, or in this case, retune, which is their version of it. I know it's like frowned upon when it isn't used as an effect and instead isn't being used to sort of fix a vocal take, but I'm going to let you know right now, pretty much every one of your favorite artists from the past 30 years has used autotune to some extent, okay? They even used it on the Beatles' Let It Be Naked from like 2000 or whatever. They did that on a couple of notes. My vocal teacher, my own vocal teacher, who is an incredible vocalist, he told me that your goal as a vocalist is to get 95% of the way there. And if you need, in the studio, a little bit of help with that extra 5%, then that's what you do. It's so many artists, including Damon, have done this. Beyond the actual performance, I've got a lot of effects happening here. So let's listen to, I've got a vocal reverb channel. So this is that epic verb again. And then I've got that same delay plugin. And using the delay plugin, you can see I'm rolling off everything above 2600 hertz, which is pretty low. Just to kind of keep it soft and kind of warmer and a little bit more trippy, right? Because we're getting a lot of brightness out of this reverb. So mixing it in with that soft delay kind of keeps it under control, right? So not one part of the frequency spectrum is kind of jumping out over the other. Of course, I've got the ahs on the side here. It's funny, you can hear the backing track if you listen really carefully. Anyway, I've got those panned left and right. Despite my advice earlier, a lot of times with vocals, I do tend to kind of do the same take and just pan them. But even in those cases, it's great if you can get a different microphone. I always either use the AKG C214 for vocals, or I've got the SM57. If you're not familiar with this, old standby, it's like $100. If you buy one microphone that isn't a USB microphone, make it this one. This you can use on instruments, drums, vocals. It's great. I have like 5 of these for drums usually, but also vocals. And I don't remember. I couldn't tell you if I used the 57 or the AKG on this. Probably the AKG, because I think it's better for picking up like the brightness of vocals, but this is a great standby as well. So what I could have done was recorded one with the AKG, one with the 57, and panned them. I don't think I did that here, but that goes back to the philosophy of making your stereo spread different between your left and your right channel. Another great vocal microphone is the SM58, but essentially it's the same thing as a 57. It just has one of those typical microphone grill things here, you know, the round part. More or less the exact same microphone though. So if you gotta buy one, if you can't decide, if you're going to be using it more on instruments, get a 57. If you're going to be using it more for vocals, especially live, get a 58, because that round part is kind of a windscreen that helps protect it from your mouth a little bit. See what I meant about tangents, but I hope this is good information. If you're getting this into the nitty-gritty with me, then I'm thinking maybe this stuff actually interests you, and maybe it's something you mess with in your free time. So hopefully this is, you know, helpful on that, you know, on that level as well. You can do just the lows, just the mids, and just the highs. Just kind of, I just really like to try and feel it when I'm doing these. Like, you know, performance is more important than anything. It goes back to what I was saying with the drums and the bass. Like, yeah, you're creating this new style, you're getting these samples, but it's more than just that. It's about like really feeling it when you're playing it. You want to really get into the headspace of the song and feel the groove of the song. And if that means occasionally doing something silly like or something, then that's what you do. But it feels good. It helps make the whole, it just brings the whole thing together. And sometimes these things sound silly on their own, but then you get it in that mix and you're like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, you know? I've got two more things. I've got three more things I want to show real quick. This is a sample. This is the only actual sample I used on this song. Please don't tell anyone. Don't tell EMI or whoever the fuck owns this, right? And this is from the Electric Shock Live, Africa Express in 2008. And I've just got it down to mono. That's what I'm using this for. And just a little bit of EQ. You can see I'm only letting through the mid-range, almost like a telephone effect. If I take this off, it sounds like this. But get that on there. This is at the same time as this drum break. It's just to have that kind of break in there that they would do on these songs. It's a pretty common technique for old Kid Koala and Dan the Automator. This is not the original, like, literal file that I used when I did this. When I opened up my project file, this was missing. I had deleted the original file at some point. So I re-downloaded it just for this demonstration. That's why if you listen to the final version on YouTube and compare it to this sounds a little bit like lower. It doesn't quite sound right. Good enough, though. You get the point. So the last thing I want to cover are the, I guess you could say, vocal samples, in a way. Let's start with That's Electric.
That's Electric Shock.
The funniest comment I get about this cover, remix, whatever you want to call it, is when people refer to this as Dell. Now, it's definitely what I was going for, or I'd say more accurately, I was kind of going for soundcheck gravity. It's just me. This is just me with a pitch shifter. So let's listen to one track.
That's Electric Shock.
If I just take out the pitch,
That's Electric Shock.
that's me. That's Electric Shock.
That's Electric Shock.
That's it. And then you just pitch it down,
That's Electric Shock.
add a little bit of delay.
That's Electric Shock.
That's it.
That's Electric Shock.
So this rhythm of taking the electric shock, this ties the whole thing together back with what I was saying in the inspiration part of all this, is this rhythm is taken straight from the first BBC demo of Electric Shock, as well as the one that he released later after the album had come out. So I just thought, let's take that low kind of sound check vibe and let's just recreate it.
That's Electric Shock. That's Electric Shock.
Let it breathe.
That's Electric Shock.
That's it. That's the whole approach there. And I really think that kind of brings the whole thing together. And so many fans of Gorillaz have commented on my videos saying that they picked up on the whole electric shock thing there, which I think is awesome. They know the reference. They know why it's in there, and I think that's great. And the only other thing I did was this vocal clip right here.
Here we go again.
It sounds ridiculous on its own. But I had to have the Here We Go Again in there. And I mix it in with the, where is it? The scratch and the fill.
Here we go again.
Just mimicking kind of the idea of like a Kid Koala scratch. Here we go again, you know, that kind of thing. It's all I could do, really.
Here we go again.
Just like that. And so again, that's just my voice. If I take out the pitch shifting, here we go again. That's me. I'm like way up here. Here we go again. That's so funny. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Here we go again.
That's it. Maybe one more vocal thing to go over here. I think it's important with this first album especially, and sometimes with the second album, but especially this first one, you got to get those low vocals in there, almost talking level. Here they are.
Your love's like rhinestones falling from the sky.
It just really adds something when you mix it in with the higher octave.
Your love's like rhinestones falling from the sky.
It just, you know, really kind of rounds it out. He does that a lot, where he does that kind of low vocal fry thing down here. So outside of that, it's just mixing, mastering, and, you know, finding balances, EQing things to make it all fit together. And on my master track, I've got a little bit of EQ, boosting the low end, getting rid of some of the muddiness in the middle, getting rid of some of the brittleness up here. If I play it a little bit and then take it off, it just doesn't sound as full to me if I turn the EQ off. But if I turn it back on, so on, and then off, it just loses something. Back on. Just adds a little something. A little bit of compression, just a little bit. And that's bringing it up. Just to kind of help squash it a bit so then I can run it through the limiter. All that just to get it kind of have it feeling a little more cohesive and get it a little bit louder. Everything from there is just mixing and mixing over and over until it sounds exactly like how I want to. And sometimes I'll pull up the original track, you know, not even the original track, but I'll pull up something from Gorilla's self-titled or whatever album I'm kind of trying to, you know, pastiche here, and I'll just kind of listen to it and like see what hits me about it, you know, in terms of the mix and everything, and I'll try to kind of apply that here. Odds are it's not going to sound identical in terms of the mixing. I didn't record it the exact same way. I'm using different kinds of samples and things, but I think it gets the point across as long as I can kind of compare and sort of feel it out, like, okay, more bass here, less high end, that kind of thing. Lather, rinse, repeat until it all feels just right, and I listen to it over and over, and I'm like, yeah, that's done. That feels good. Sometimes you just know. Other times you don't know for sure, but at some point you got to be like, you know what? It's done. I got nothing else I want to add to it. It sounds good. Let's call it a day. So that was a look into how I made my currently most popular video, which is What If Rhinestone Eyes was on Gorilla's self-titled. And I hope you got something out of it. I hope it was entertaining, or you learned something about audio producing, or, you know, song arranging, anything like that. Or even just as a Gorillaz fan, hope you got a kick out of it, you know. If I didn't answer a question you might have about how this is done, let me know. If I can answer it in a comment, I will. Otherwise, the next time I do one of these videos, I will be sure to go into whatever questions you have. If you want access to these stems or any of these files, I do have them up on my Patreon for $1 a month. Not only will you get access to all of these tracks, all these raw tracks that you can download and use however you want to, make your own remixes, use them in your own songs, whatever you want to do. But you will also get to see videos like this and all future Egg Beats videos 1 week before it gets put up on YouTube. So consider that a bonus. And really what the money from that does is it supports me hosting it up on Spotify, which does cost a little bit of money for copyright reasons and just for having the account and everything. But a lot of people want these up on Spotify. They're all up on Spotify. That just costs me money every year, so the Patreon helps support that and helps me justify keeping them up. So you're supporting that directly as well. Otherwise, I hope you found this entertaining. Hope you got something out of it. We'll see you in the next video. I've got another one of these What If videos I'm cooking up right now. I don't know when it's going to be done, but it's going to be done this year. 2025, 100%. I'm hoping by summer. We'll see. But until then, thanks for watching. See ya.